Okay. So hi, everybody. This is Aaron Murakami with Energetic Forum, and today is May 28th, and we're getting actually close to midnight, so this is a late night call. And tonight on the phone I have with me John Polakowsi, who is pretty much the first person ever to replicate Eric Dollard's Cosmic Induction Generator project. Can you hear me okay, John?
Yeah, I can hear you great, Aaron.
Okay. So John is out in San Luis Obispo, California. And if any of you have been following this for a while, back quite a while back, Eric Dollard had replicated, even to this day, quite a few different Tesla technologies, and one of them, at least rooted in Tesla technologies, because Eric has actually made improvements on some of the Tesla transmission systems. And one of his more interesting technologies is called the Cosmic Induction Generator, which actually materializes and lets you visually see the intrinsic formative forces of the universe right inside of a plasma bulb, which is being excited by some, I guess you would say, opposing dielectric fields?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really strong dielectric fields.
And there's some pictures online of some of these purple plasma discharges, which are quite a bit different from just these, typical plasma bulbs and stuff that you can buy out of any novelty store. I mean, these are actually, very, almost look like little galaxies and spirals and stuff. There's little the fractals and stuff, and they all conform to the golden ratio, and they're obviously very visually different from a lot of the plasma, bulbs that are out there for like entertainment purposes. And but being that it's 2014 right now, within the last few years, John Polakowsi has been one of the primary builders in Energetic Forum, replicating a lot of Eric's work. And do you want to tell a little bit of the story about how you learned about Eric and how it came to be that you and maybe a couple others helped to publish some of his papers in the forum when he didn't have internet access, and your story about him living with you, and kind of what got you kind of involved with working with his technology and learning his science?
Yeah, so a number of years ago, I had met Eric through the N6KPH Yahoo group. And a message went out on the group that Eric needed a place to stay, that he was homeless, and he needed to find a place to spend the winter. And I had an extra room in my house at the time. Actually, I had a couple extra rooms. And so I wrote back saying that, he was welcome to stay at my house, for as long as he wanted to. And I ended up getting a message back, and then me and him ended up talking over the phone a couple times. And then a month later, he came to live with me in Monterey, and which was great. And I helped him publish some things on the forum, and he lived with me off and on for about a year and a half. And during the whole time, he was teaching me things. I was typing things out, to post on the forum, and we were getting equipment together and making trips to salvage yards. And he was just kind of teaching me basically how he's operated his life so far as building equipment. He kind of showed me the ropes of how he's been doing things, and basically tutored me in electrical engineering.
So what's like some of your background? Because obviously not just anybody can walk off the street, come face to face with Eric, and then start understanding what he's talking about. Like, do you have a background in electrical engineering? Or
yeah, so I went to college for computer engineering, which is basically half electrical engineering and half computer science.
Okay.
But I ended up liking the electrical engineering portion of it way more. That's where I took most of my coursework. And then, so I had that conventional background in electrical engineering. And then when I was able to meet with Eric, he wasn't just teaching somebody who had no background at all or no schooling. So I was able to pick things up with him pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. now were you going to school down in California, kind of near where you were living, or?
Yeah, at Cal Poly.
Okay.
I had gone to school at Cal Poly, which is in San Luis Obispo.
Mm-hmm. So you're at least like mechanically inclined and stuff, and kind of had like an engineering kind of mind with logic and that kind of stuff. So you're able to.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been very mechanically inclined and really enjoyed, building things with my hands and solving problems and putting stuff together. And so it was a great fit.
So, like, over the last few years, and this is before we ever had a chance to meet each other in person, and even before I met Eric personally, before the last conference, was that, for the last, 2 years, 2.5, almost 3 years or whatever, that when you're talking about publishing, some Eric's papers and stuff, basically he would write up some papers, and since he's not really an internet guy or, he doesn't even have a cell phone or anything, and he actually prefers it that way.
Exactly.
So he would write something up, and basically you or somebody else would basically just transcribe this online for him under his username on the form.
He would handwrite it out, and then I would type it in for him, and then a lot of times he would want pictures or diagrams to go along with it. So we'd go look and find some pictures that would go along with what he had written. And so we were able to put out some really informative posts for people on the Internet forum. And my username at that time was J. Polakowsi, well, it still is, but everything went out under his username T-Rex.
Right. And so that's pretty much for the last 3 years or so, probably almost the only place on the Internet that Eric's recent material over the last few years has ever really been, posted on his behalf.
Yep, exactly. That's where all his new stuff is coming out.
And so before then, it's probably been years, because before then was the last stuff of Eric's work pretty much published back in the Borderland days, or has it been that big of a gap since a lot of his work?
It's been that long.
Public? And that's been quite a long time. So so after getting to know Eric, and he's living with you, and obviously there's a whole beyond an encyclopedia full of things that you could be working on with Eric, with the electrical sciences and the test of technology and that kind of thing. So what kind of drew you to the Cosmic Induction Generator, and how did that whole concept kind of come up, and what drew you to it? To actually start working on it?
Right. Well, that was a piece of equipment that produced some amazing results that were very counter to conventional science or conventional physics or electrical engineering. And I kind of saw that as something that needed to be brought back from the dead. While he's still around, so it doesn't disappear. Right. There's a lot of people working on different things, on the forum or wherever, free energy, or what Eric calls energy synthesis, among other things. But I felt this was an area that nobody else was really spending any time or energy on, and it needed to be done, and nobody else was going to do it. So that's why I felt like it was something I needed to accomplish.
So now with the Cosmic Induction Generator, for anybody listening that may not really know, the details of what it even is, or what purpose it serves, or whatever, can you give maybe a little bit of background of kind of Eric's process of where he kind of started with that type of technology, and what he experienced, and how he kind of scaled it up, and, to my understanding, maybe like a 2,000 watt version, the RCA building was maybe like the last time he had done anything with it, and then kind of where you're stepping into it, and where you want to take it.
Right. So the physical configuration of it is that it consists of two sets of Tesla coils that directly oppose each other. So they're pointed at each other, and then they're driven by an AM transmitter, and they're driven such that they're 180 degrees out of phase electrically. So there's this really strong changing dielectric field in the middle between the two coils. And then all kinds of cool stuff happens there, stuff that you wouldn't expect. And where it gets its name from, the Cosmic Induction Generator, what happens if you take a bulb that is conducive to creating plasma inside is various plasma shapes will start appearing in the bulb that aren't normal, that aren't what you'd normally expect. And one of the things that can happen is it can take on the actual shape of a galaxy or the cosmos. And that's where the cosmic aspect comes from. The induction aspect is that you're creating really a strong dielectric fields, or dielectric induction, like Eric likes to call it, in between the two coils, and that's where the word induction comes from, and then it generates the cosmic induction in between the two Tesla coils.
Now, there was a book called Cosmic Superimposition, and what was that by Wilhelm Reich?
Yeah, Wilhelm Reich.
And talking about like the formative forces of the universe, almost it kind of resembles like the concepts of the morphic or morphogenic fields that like Rupert Sheldrake talks about, where like, you know, in the ethers there's like these different patterns and stuff like that, which are obviously invisible to us, but they kind of dictate how a lot of the physical stuff kind of happens in the physical world.
Yeah, that's one of the really interesting aspects of this, is that when you get these golden ratio discharges, it's obviously not the shortest path for the arc discharges to take. It kind of makes you wonder if that's what the underlying structure of our universe is these geometrical golden ratio architecture or geometry that makes up our universe. It definitely indicates that, and definitely more research needs to be done in this area.
Right, because I mean, even, you know, the dimensions of, you know, a human being, you know, the span from, you know, fingertip to fingertip, if you're holding your arms out, to, you know, the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, all these different ratios, and right. It's reflected in, you know, how a tree grows, and, you know, all these spiral patterns, like in a nautilus shell, and these spirals, and you know, flower of life patterns that show up, and you got, you know, the pine cone patterns, and so there's something very interesting that, you know, something is kind of influencing like these, you know, how these patterns kind of take shape, and how, you know, cells kind of come together and form different things. And,
right. And I mean, it's obviously a pattern or a code that life follows, but what's really, you know, intriguing is, you know, for a plasma to discharge in that shape, you know, just in air without any other, you know, structure there, it kind of points to the fact that that's what the underlying structure of just reality is. Right.
Now with the Cosmic Induction Generator, you know, besides just demonstrating inside of plasma bulbs these, you know, really, you know, beautiful and profound geometric patterns, what the coils, when you talk about these, you know, opposing coils where one is wound in one way, one is wound in the opposite way, and then you're creating these like opposing dielectric, or, you know, I would say like electrostatic fields. Right in the space in between. The coils themselves and the designs for them and the formulas to basically calculate how many windings and all that, Eric had put that in the forum, or maybe you typed it up for him, and that was known as the like the Crystal Radio Initiative, or
the Crystal Radio Initiative.
Yeah, and that's so the Crystal Radio Initiative is basically a set of papers that Eric put forward, which kind of showed, like, you know, anybody listening, if they don't know what a crystal radio is, it's basically a little circuit that doesn't even have a battery, yet it allows you to receive like AM transmission from an AM radio station, and you can plug an earpiece in and you can actually hear it, and it's actually powered from the radio waves themselves, right?
Right. Yeah. What Eric's original goal for that was to create the Tesla coils and then actually ground them and receive the longitudinal component from a regular radio station and actually try to receive some power through the Tesla coils from an AM station.
So would that actually be showing that the transmission is actually going through the ground and not the air, as most people think?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and there were some comments that, off of, I guess, an upscaled crystal radio based on these principles and Eric's designs and stuff, that it may be possible to even power like a 100-watt light bulb right out of this AM transmission.
Yeah, that would be a pinnacle achievement. If you could do that, then you've done well.
And it looks like some people kind of experimented with the concept on a smaller scale and actually did get some light bulbs to light up. But with the antenna designs, so that's where you basically got the formulas and everything to basically calculate the windings and the diameter of the antennas and all that, or coils for the Cosmic Induction Generator. So it's really, if somebody builds a set of those coils based on what's shared in the Crystal Radio Initiative at Energetic Forum in Eric's writings, it's not just for that. It's really kind of a universal coil system that has many, many applications. So besides that Crystal Radio concept, or even the Cosmic Induction Generator, could those coils even be used for like communication from one point to another and other things besides just these plasma discharges inside of bulbs?
Oh yeah, any of those things. Basically, it's a formula for creating any Tesla coil system. Granted, there's a little more know-how that has to go into actually building the coils too. But yeah, that's the formula right there for building coils that can do the Cosmic Induction Generator, or transmitting and receiving through the ground, right? As well as some other things too. One of the things that we're going to try to look at with the coils that we built here is taking a look at the effects that we've gotten with these coils based on the formula, and see how the calculated frequency matches up with the actual resonant frequency of the coils, and see how closely things match the formula, so we can improve on it even more, and kind of narrow down the experimental aspects of the Tesla coil. It doesn't seem like many people have really looked into optimizing the parameters of the coils themselves. Now,
one really profound concept that came out of some of your experiments that you and Eric had plotted out on some charts by taking the data of looking at the kind of emissions from the coils compared to how much power is being drawn, inside the radio frequency transmitter. It's basically an old Navy transmitter. Is that the popular belief is that energy cannot be created or destroyed, and there's a lot of semantics in the so-called free energy field and this and that about free energy or what's really happening. But the bottom line is that what the data is showing is that there's X amount of watts of RF power being pumped into these things, and what you're measuring with these, the field meter in between the coils and everything is that basically the energy looks like it's basically disappearing into thin air.
Yeah, it certainly appeared that way. Granted, we didn't do extremely rigorous data collection, but it certainly appeared that way, that we were putting more power into the coils and into the tank circuit but we were getting less field strength as a result. And so that energy was going somewhere, but it wasn't in the field, around the coils that we could tell. And it wasn't in the tank circuit, but it was coming out of the transmitter. So it's a mystery where it ended up. But hopefully we can do a little more rigorous data collection and kind of see what's going on there.
So it's almost like it's disappearing, like in the counter space, if we're using some of that terminology. Where what I found interesting is that it looks like as the voltage is going up, the current is actually like bottoming out.
That's what Eric's thinking, at least, is that it's going into counter space, and that's also apparently when you start seeing some of the living forms start to appear in the bulb. If you had a plasma bulb placed in between the coils at the time, that's when you start to see some of the living forms of plasma show up in the bulb. And it's remarkable what some of the people who witnessed the original Cosmic Induction Generator, they said that the plasma forms actually appeared to be intelligent and have a memory, and they wouldn't go to the same place twice. They would kind of dance around each other in kind of a playful way, and they actually, looked to actually be alive.
Right. We'll see what the voltage going up and current going down, like in even in some conventional electrical engineering, is known as some negative resistance characteristics. Like, for example, there's a few transistors, like a MJL21194 or like a little 2N2222, where you can like just hit these sweet spots where as you start increasing the voltage, the current actually drops down for a little bit of range, and then you start getting out of the sweet spot, and the current starts coming back up, showing that instead of the current kind of coming up as well, it actually drops down, showing these negative resistance characteristics. But the input power supply in that radio transmitter, you're talking about like the voltage applied to a certain part of the tube, which is actually helping to crank that power out, is actually staying the same.
Yeah, the voltage. The voltage that we applied to the tube was the same throughout. But what would change is the plate current that came out of the transmitter, and we noticed that the plate current was increasing, and the energy was being transferred to the secondary of the Tesla coil, but it wasn't showing up in the field strength.
Right.
So it was kind of a mystery.
Right. Now within the last maybe, I don't know, month and a half ago or 2 months or something like that, like you and Eric were plotting all that data out, and I think you made a spreadsheet out of it, or at least some graphs in a spreadsheet. And so those were all posted in Energetic Forum, and I think you may have reposted those in your own blog, which is johnpolakowskiscience.com.
Yep, I posted them there as well.
So yeah, anybody listening, if you actually kind of want to see these, you can go to johnpolakowskiscience.com, and this is a new website that John is just getting going, and it kind of highlights the Cosmic Induction Generator project. And on that website, not only does it talk about that, but if one thing that we haven't even mentioned yet is that there currently is an Indiegogo campaign, which is a crowdfunding campaign for John. And, there's only, as of right now, there's only maybe 3 days left or so. And the goal was to raise maybe $13,000. Earlier today, it was at about maybe $4,000. And I'd sent out a mailing, and somebody was kind enough to actually donate $3,000, just, one person. And, do you want to kind of maybe give a shout out to anybody who's kind of donated, no matter how big or small, and maybe kind of explain what the money is going to be going to?
Everyone who's donated so far. It's difficult to take hard-earned money and donate to somebody you don't even know. And so I'm incredibly grateful for everyone who's donated so far, however big or small. It's amazing. I'm speechless. But for all of you that have donated, be assured it's going to a good cause, and this will be completed no matter what. I've been working on it for almost 2 years now, just funding it myself. Basically, every dollar I earned and every spare minute I spent on this project to get it this far. And so all the donations are really going to help me complete the project. As far as what the donations are going to be used for, one of the things that's going to help me get to the conference, the Energy Science Conference at the end of June, and bring the Cosmic Induction Generator that I have done so far to the conference and do some demonstrations so people can see it for themselves. Mm-hmm. Also, it's going to help me repair my vehicle to make trips out to the lab to meet with Eric and build equipment and make progress there. And also, some of the other things it's going to be used for is more parts and materials to finish the high-power version of it up. Right now we kind of have a low-power, probably around 100-watt version. And I've been in the process of building a 1 or 2 kilowatt version, but I don't have all the parts for it yet. Mm-hmm. And so these donations will really, really help purchase some of those parts, as well as, some more precise test equipment to kind of measure, the more precise field strength and some other parameters that will help optimize the system and really help us see what's going on.
Right. Now, and just so that everybody is clear, the replication of Eric's Cosmic Induction Generator is not an if or a maybe or an R&D kind of thing. I mean, at this point, and for months now, you actually do have a fully working Cosmic Induction Generator that you did replicate. It's just at the small scale, right? As far as the power levels. Because I took a few trips down to Eric's lab, a long, grueling 2,000-mile round trip, and I saw you and took some video and photos when you were first, sawing some wood behind the shop. Just put the coils together and seeing that come into fruition, and then you and Eric, trying to get this Navy transmitter that, working all the bugs out of it, finally get it working, and
oh my gosh, yeah.
Just seeing you, both you guys kind of work together at the bench, and Eric working his magic on the tuning stuff, and pretty soon it's working, and you have the fluorescent tube, and he's putting on different spots to kind of test it and stuff, and so it's kind of amazing, and just kind of an honor to see all this come together, because this is kind of a rare, I consider a rare historical moment for something like this to even be, coming back together, and so somebody like you to kind of resurrect this lost and forgotten kind of technology that people know the name of it, they've seen some pictures and stuff like that, but Eric's primary focus right now is the advanced seismic warning system, which he's working with Justin down in the desert, repairing the poles and stuff like that. And I know that Eric is very grateful that you're kind of carrying on the Cosmic Induction Generator project, because he doesn't really have time to focus on that, and you're the first one ever to do so. And so like at the conference, this conference that John is mentioning is the 2014 Energy Science and Technology Conference, and the details on that are at EnergyScienceConference.com. And John's going to be bringing what he has so far, which will be a demonstration of the Cosmic Induction Generator, and his goal is to basically, upscale it quite a bit beyond anything that's been done before, because I think what the largest power supply Eric was using was about a 2,000 watt unit, and this is back at the RCA Marconi building days, 20 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And so right now you're at about 100 watt level, and you want to move up to at least about a 1,000 watt level?
Yeah, so somewhere between 1 and 2,000 watts.
1 and 2,000 watts.
The transmitter I'm building is kind of, it can be changed pretty easily. Bigger tubes put in, so it should be able to put it up to about 2,000 watts, no problem.
So what power range as far as watts can those exact same coils handle? Oh,
geez. That's hard to say. I would say probably up to about 5,000 watts.
About 5,000 watts? Okay.
Yeah.
Now if everybody hasn't seen this or not, if you go to johnpolakowskiscience.com, or if you go into Indiegogo.com and if you search for a Cosmic Induction Generator, there is some pictures of some large AM radio transmitters out of an old, two different AM radio transmitter sites, radio stations. They're about the size of maybe, each one's about the size of like 2 phone booths, and each one of those transmitters are about 5,000 watts, right?
Yeah, each one 5,000.
And so there's 2 of those. And part of the money raised in the Indiegogo campaign, one of them is already fully paid for, and the other one, they still need to purchase that. And so once you get your system up to 1 to 2,000 watt level, then the next step is to replicate the whole Cosmic Induction Generator technology up to that'd be 10,000 watts, which is going to be crazy.
Oh yeah, it hadn't been done before.
And so, not only does it show these things, but with the flames, like the coils, you can actually pump audio into these using this technology, and it's like one of the most hi-fi audio technologies that you could ever have. Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Right. So if you have a plasma, a solid plasma stream between the two coils, you can modulate the signal that's driving the coils with an audio source, and then the arc will actually play music by getting larger and smaller. That's how by displacing the air. And the really cool thing with having the two big AM transmitters is because then you can have a stereo system, as in you have two sources of sound, as in 2 speakers. So you would have two separate arcs going on to hear music in stereo instead of just from one plasma speaker, which would be amazing. It'd be absolutely amazing to hear that quality of music.
Right. Now some people have, talked about, there's, these Tesla coils making music and stuff like that. You can see them on YouTube, but it's not even the same ball game, because a lot of those are just limited to a few frequencies, right? Because, I've heard some of the sounds played on some of those high voltage Tesla coils, and the audio is limited to where it almost, the audio quality is limited to like what you would hear like on a Donkey Kong or a Mario Brothers video game or something like that, right?
Yeah, very poor sound quality and distortion and that sort of thing.
And with the Cosmic Induction Generator concept, it's basically going to be so high fidelity, it's almost like practically distortion-free, perfect audio, and just like living sound that you're just going to be completely encompassed with, just so it's completely different.
It should be amazing. Should be completely amazing.
Right. So if you're listening to this, and if you want to help, and we really hope that you consider helping John out, no matter how little or how big your contribution can be, whether it's $1,000 or $500, even if you can just donate $5, that's still going to help push this project forward. And even if you're not able to contribute anything, just getting the word out about it, and just share johnpolakowskiscience.com. And John, I'll put the subtitles to your website, the address down at the bottom of the video when I put this on YouTube. And if you go to johnpolakowskiscience.com, even after the Indiegogo campaign here in a couple of days, you can still support them, because there's going to be a name and address if you want to send a check or money order to it, or if you just want to donate directly by PayPal, that's going to be on the website, and it's actually there right now. And so I know it's getting close to midnight right now, John, and I appreciate your time. I know it's late. You got some things to do. I got to get to bed here pretty soon, and and other than that, if you want to come up and check out a live demonstration of the Cosmic Induction Generator, what John has going on, definitely go to EnergyScienceConference.com. Register to that. It's going to be up in Idaho, right across the Idaho border from Spokane, Washington. It's going to be an amazing conference. John's going to be demonstrating that. Eric's going to be giving a talk on the Tesla Alexanderson extraluminal transmission systems, and he may even be doing some demos with those exact same coils, just teaching some different principles and stuff. And so it's definitely going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see all these guys doing these amazing demonstrations and giving these presentations on these technologies that you're really not going to be able to learn about anywhere else. And so anyway, John, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you here in about 4 weeks up in the Northwest here. And good luck with the project, and we'll see you soon. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, take care, John. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, yeah, bye-bye. There's some pictures online of some of these purple plasma discharges, which are quite a bit different from just these, typical plasma bulbs and stuff that you can buy out of any novelty store. I mean, these are actually, very, almost look like little galaxies and spirals and stuff. There's little the fractals and stuff, and they all conform to the golden ratio, and they're obviously very visually different from a lot of the plasma, bulbs that are out there for like entertainment purposes. And but being that it's 2014 right now, within the last few years, John Polakowsi has been one of the primary builders in Energetic Forum, replicating a lot of Eric's work. And do you want to tell a little bit of the story about how you learned about Eric and how it came to be that you and maybe a couple others helped to publish some of his papers in the forum when he didn't have internet access, and your story about him living with you, and kind of what got you kind of involved with working with his technology and learning his science?
Yeah. So a number of years ago, I had met Eric through the N6KPH Yahoo group, and a message went out on the group that Eric needed a place to stay, that he was homeless, and he needed to find a place to spend the winter.
Years, and this is before we ever had a chance to meet each other in person, and even before I met Eric personally, before the last conference, was that, for the last, 2 years, 2.5, almost 3 years or whatever, that when you're talking about publishing, some Eric's papers and stuff, basically he would write up some papers, and since he's not really an internet guy or, he doesn't even have a cell phone or anything, and he actually prefers it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So he would write something up, and basically you or somebody else would basically just transcribe this online for him under his username.
He would handwrite it out, and then I would type it in for him, and then a lot of times he would want, pictures or diagrams to go along with it. So
Right.
we'd go, look and find some pictures that would go along with what he had written.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to put out some really informative posts for people
Mm-hmm.
on the Internet forum. And my username at that time was J. Polakowsi, well, it still is, but everything went out under his username T-Rex.
Right. And so that's pretty much for the last 3 years or so, probably almost the only place on the internet that Eric's recent material of background in electrical engineering. Or
yeah. So I went to college for computer engineering, which is basically half electrical engineering and half computer science.
Okay.
But I ended up liking the electrical engineering portion of it way more. That's where I took most of my coursework. And then, so I had that conventional background in electrical engineering. And then when I was able to meet with Eric, he wasn't just teaching somebody who had no background at all or no schooling. So I was able to pick things up with him pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. So now were you going to school down in California, kind of near where you were living, or
yeah, at Cal Poly.
Okay.
I had gone to school at Cal Poly, which is in San Luis Obispo.
Mm-hmm. So you're at least like mechanically inclined and stuff, and kind of had like an engineering kind of mind with logic and that kind of stuff. So you're able to.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been very mechanically inclined and really enjoyed building things with my hands and solving problems and putting stuff together. And so
right.
it was a great fit.
So like over the last few years. Okay. So hi, everybody. This is Aaron Murakami with Energetic Forum, and today is May 28th, and we're getting actually close to midnight, so this is a late night call. And tonight on the phone I have with me John Polakowsi, who is pretty much the first person ever to replicate Eric Dollard's Cosmic Induction Generator project. Can you hear me okay, John?
Yeah, I can hear you great, Aaron.
Okay. So John is out in San Luis Obispo, California. And if any of you have been following this for a while, back quite a while back, Eric Dollard had replicated even to this day quite a few different Tesla technologies, and one of them, at least rooted in Tesla technologies, because Eric has actually made improvements on some of the Tesla transmission systems, and one of his more interesting technologies is called the Cosmic Induction Generator, which actually materializes and lets you visually see the intrinsic formative forces of the universe right inside of a plasma bulb, which is being excited by some, I guess you would say, opposing dielectric fields?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really strong dielectric fields.
And
I had an extra room in my house at the time. Actually, I had a couple extra rooms, and so I wrote back saying that he was welcome to stay at my house for as long as he wanted to, and I ended up getting a message back, and then me and him ended up talking over the phone a couple times, and then a month later he came to live with me in Monterey, and which was great, and I helped him publish some things on the forum, and he lived with me off and on for about a year and a half. And during the whole time, he was teaching me things. I was typing things out, to post on the forum, and we were getting equipment together and making trips to salvage yards. And he was just kind of teaching me basically how he's operated his life so far as building equipment. He kind of showed me the ropes of how he's been doing things, and basically tutored me in electrical engineering.
So what's like some of your background? Because obviously not just anybody can walk off the street, come face to face with Eric, and then start understanding what he's talking about. Like, do you have